everyone. Welcome to this month's Intent Live. I am Charlie, and today I am joined by Colin, our Principal Value Consultant here at Maybe Intent. And most importantly, I am joined by Jack Simkins, who is one of our brilliant customers over at Golfbreaks, where he is a product manager. So this time, Jack is going to be talking all about how Golfbreaks lift conversion by optimizing for intent over conversion rate and thinking about those visitors who are not ready to buy straight away, which is one of the key things that Maybe Intent is really, really useful for. So I think today's going to be super interesting because Golfbreaks and kind of the product they're selling is a really high consideration purchase journey with multiple sessions within it. So I think the team have had to take quite a different approach to CRO and personalisation. And I think there's going to be a lot that we can all take learnings away to our different industries and products for. So we're going to be going through all of this today with Jack leading us there. And I think Jack's even going to do a little bit of a product demo at one point. So
give it a go.
Very exciting stuff, a live product demo. So I'll cross my fingers. But as always, we'll have time for questions. Hopefully at the end, if you've got any questions throughout, please pop them in the chat. We'll get to them through the session, but then also we'll answer any at the end as well. So I think that is everything from me. I'm going to pass over to Jack for intros and get us started.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And thanks to everyone who's joining on the call. My name's Jack, digital product manager at Golfbreaks. I've been at Golfbreaks now for around 7 years or so, and maybe more recently in the last couple of years, working on the CRO program. Golfbreaks are a golf tour operator based down in Windsor, and we've also got offices in Copenhagen and in Charleston in the USA. But for the Maybe Intent account, we primarily focus on the US and the UK. So yeah, we send golfers all around the world, whether that's a 1-night trip somewhere in the UK or whether that's a 4-night to 7-night trip over in Spain or Portugal. There are lots of different types of golfers, lots of different segments that we try and target. But hopefully Colin will agree with me that there are certain challenges with Golfbreaks. It's relatively niche in terms of our processes on site, and the experiences we have to go through.
Yeah, I mean, I have the pleasure of working on the account, which is good, but obviously not our traditional e-commerce brand where it's kind of pure, purchase journey. But I think that almost plays into the hands of intent where you need to think about that considered purchase and how to get people through the funnel before even thinking about the booking weeks and months down the lines. I know, Jack, you've got a slide on the challenges that you have, but it'd be good to find out more from you.
Yes. So I thought I'd just add in a bit of context because when someone lands on the site as a new visitor, if someone's interested in booking a golf holiday, it isn't usually that simple for someone to arrive on the site for the very first time and kind of progress through points 1 all the way to point 6. As Charlie mentioned, it's a high consideration purchase. That's not just in golf, that's just in holidays in general. I think if you've ever looked at sorting out a package holiday, you'll know that you'll often spend time going back and forth, looking at different venues, trying to work out what packages work for you. And that's not just necessarily the person who's actually booking the trip. It's also the guests that are going with you. You've probably got friends who are also looking on the site. So it means that not everyone who lands on the site is kind of willing and ready to purchase. There are lots of different sessions that are involved. So that decision cycle is a lot longer. And for the CRO program, we primarily concentrate on points number 1 to 4. So Golfbreaks is a lead gen site. So for us, our primary conversion goal is inquiry. But there's a lot of work that goes in internally within the business once it goes past 4, where the sales agents take over. We use their expertise to get the quotes out, the packages, and eventually with the end goal of booking. So we've got quite a unique scenario whereby we're trying to encourage that inquiry. And particularly in travel and in the industry in general, it's quite an unusual thing to not be able to book entirely online. We do have a small segment of online bookings, but primarily it is inquiry driven. And we know that the agents are the experts who want to get customers on the phone, because if anyone on the call has been on a golf trip before, you'll kind of know the ins and outs of going on a golf trip, what it involves, all the different nuances and considerations that you have to go through in order to get that booking over the line.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry,
There
Jack.
you go.
I was going to ask, so you've mentioned obviously inquiries are kind of like the core goal, I guess, of what you're trying to achieve mainly, but you've come onto the slide now, but what else are you guys thinking about then when you're thinking about, what makes a successful campaign for you or a successful experience?
Yeah, there's a few kind of key takeaways which I'll hopefully highlight throughout the presentation, but one of them is that there are so many other metrics that you can measure for outside of conversion rate, and that you are what you measure is one of the maybe intent phrases. And we've kind of adopted that because based on the slide before where I was saying a new visitor that lands on the site, it's unlikely that they're going to inquire. What we want to try and do is encourage them through the funnel, encourage them through the core journey to help build their intent, get them further along in their decision cycle. So there are different metrics. We've got bounce rate, time on site, which kind of go hand on hand for a new user. We want to keep them on the site. We don't want them to bounce. We don't want them to disappear. And ultimately, we want them to have a better quality visit. Building intent is a key one. We have lots of low intent customers that come to the site. So rather than assuming that they will go on and convert straight away, we want to encourage them moving from low to building. That's kind of one experience goal that we might try and target. Pages viewed per session. It's kind of depth of exploration. These are just a few examples. There are lots of other secondary metrics that we're targeting. Unfortunately, in the platform, now with the agentic campaigns, we can actually see these in the platform against the experiences, which I'll show you later on. So starting simple. This is kind of an approach that we took for the examples that I'll be sharing. So the examples are new visitors arriving on our homepage and arriving on our location page. They are two separate experiences, and the learnings from those I'll hopefully be able to share what I've been able to see within the platform, some of the insights. But ultimately, we had to ask ourselves question one, which was, what are visitors actually looking for when they arrive? Try and really get under the skin of the objection handling for a new visitor. So who are Golfbreaks? What do they do? Do I trust Golfbreaks? Do I have to pay full price in order to get this booked? Can I book online? What's involved with the golf trip? Do I need transfers? Do I need flights? There's so many questions that we try and identify as part of our tactics that help to define and build out these experiences. Because without going through that initial step, we're unable to necessarily scale. And also the messaging doesn't potentially resonate as well as we would have wanted it to. So we try and identify those objections.
I think one of the things as well, Jack, that we came across was the fact that you aren't fully bookable online means that setting that expectation up front so you don't have that disappointment later on in the funnel was a huge realization to kind of build into this as well.
Yeah, as I mentioned with the inquiry, it's quite a strange form for people who are going to a travel site expecting to be able to book online. So we have to try and manage that messaging throughout the journey to, as you say, prevent that disappointment. At the point at which that conversion is going to happen, we want to manage those expectations. So then number two, and before Charlie, I asked you to talk a little bit about agentic campaigns, there is another key point on here that I wanted to get across again from this session, which is the agentic campaigns are really user friendly for a non-developer. I'm not a developer. I can't code as much as I try, but the tool allows me to get these experiences up much faster. So my concept to live process is significantly shorter. During the time that I've been working on CRO, it means that I can get the learnings faster. And with the new agentic campaigns, it means the agents have got time to learn. And you can do multiple experiences within that. But Charlie, I don't know if you wanted to chat a little bit about agentic campaigns.
Yeah, I can give. We thought it'd be good actually because we've got a lot of people on the call who may have not heard of Maybe Intent or be that familiar with us before. So, agentic campaigns, to give a quick overview, are our kind of core product, and they allow you to deliver your experiences at the optimal moment for the right user at the right time automatically. So, whereas previously, I guess in like more classic CRO A/B testing, you'd think about what segment of users do I want to give which experience. Within agentic campaigns, you actually think more about what is the strategy you're trying to achieve, or what's the moment you're trying to influence. So Jack's going to talk about like welcome visits today. How would you want to influence a user first landing on your site? If you could, what experiences would you give them? What tactics do you have available to you? So within agentic campaigns, you are completely in control of choosing, what strategy are you aiming for? What are you trying to achieve with that? Is it inquiries? Is it conversions? And then you give the agent essentially your book of tactics, your levers that very nicely, Jack said, are very easy to build in platform, because that is one of the key things that we're trying to achieve here at Made with Intent. You give those to your agent, and then the agent kind of takes away all of the delivery side of the kind of experience and campaign. It will then, based on the moment you've given it and the goal, build 100 segments of users to test your experiences against and actually understand when is the optimal time and what is the optimal experience to give that specific segment of users. So you can really kind of start to do personalization and optimization at scale in a way that we don't think is possible without the agentic involvement. But yeah, Jack, would you agree? What else do you think about agentic campaigns, or what's been really different for you guys?
They're pretty helpful, to be honest.
We didn't.
I will get onto that in the next slide, but they have been really useful, and I'll go through some insights as to why that is. Number 3 on here, I just wanted to go through that. Once we've done those agentic campaigns, then you can start to understand those business tactics, figure out what works, figure out what doesn't work. Is there certain messages that just don't resonate at all? And then, as Charlie was saying, you scale what works. You can understand from the underlying data which segments need to see what messages. And in a way, the platform surfaces it in a really obvious way. When the data's there in front of you, you think, well, yeah, obviously, that's really clear. But beforehand, you might be scratching your head trying to figure out, well, why is this not working? I'm using the same messaging. Surely they're the same customer. It's the same new user arriving on the site, sorry. But that's not always the case. So pre and post agentic, what changed? 19th of March, that was when the agentic tool came into play.
Ingrained into your head.
Yeah, unfortunately for me, it was a positive turning point, most definitely. And there's a few points on here. First of which is the subjectivity removed. So no longer am I having to set up those individual segments or service experiences to segments that I think will benefit from them, in the hands of the agent to then work out what segments it would benefit from the experience. It's a much wider net. If I set up an experience that's specific to low intent, there may be certain segments that are more building intent focused that would also benefit from that message. I'm kind of missing out on certain performance based on my own opinions. Now I'm handing that over to the agent to work out. The do nothing is the safety net, and the do nothing is a concept that is a conversion tool in itself. So in traditional A/B testing, you have your control, you have your variant, so you might have 3 variants. And if a user gets served into that experience, they will see one of those variants. So that user will, regardless of whether it's positive or negative, will be served a variant. The do nothing essentially sits within those variants as a copy of the control. And that means when the agent's trying to work out, okay, variant 1 doesn't work, variant 2 doesn't quite work, let's try variant 3, okay, that doesn't work. Because they're in the experience, they've got that additional variant to go to, which means essentially don't do anything. You're also going to see the control. And it's a safety net because it prevents us from showing negative experiences to customers that don't need to see it. I think it's a really important kind of, it is a conversion tool, and we'll see that when I get through to the location data, because it will show how powerful the do nothing is for that particular experience. Lots to talk about and do nothing.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, in most experience optimization, it's always about adding things onto your site. So I think having a version where actually sometimes the best thing is leaving the customer alone to progress, or even suppressing things on site, is a nice alternative to what we've kind of experienced over the kind of last 10, 20 years in experimentation.
And I would say as well that there is still space and time in the platform to still use those standard A/B test experiences. It's not like it's entirely using agentic. It's still got the platform still will allow you to set those up. If you want 100% of users to see something for a specific scenario, then the platform can handle that. Politics and opinion removed, links closely with the subjectivity. it allows me to hand over kind of the decision making to the agent to then report back based on the data that it provides. And ultimately, full trust in the agent. I'm no longer kind of second guessing. I'm no longer checking A/B tests daily to see how the variants are doing because I'm concerned that we're displaying negative variants. And I'll show you some of the learnings in the next couple of slides, or actually, no, when we get into the platform, about where you can see the switch in the agent and where potentially previously I would have turned a test off because of negative performance.
I guess the beauty of this as well is that there's no longer kind of winners or losers like you would get in kind of standard A/B testing. It's just generally what is the best decision or the best experience to give to each user. So that's also I guess a big change from standard A/B testing to something which is more agentic.
Nice. Okay, about 10 minutes left. I'm going to try and actually show you some performance insights. So as I mentioned, we built a new user test, both of which were welcome visits, one of which is on the homepage. So it's that banner at the top, planning a golf trip, we handle everything. And then location page, which is slightly different. The banner's located in a different location, but it uses the same messaging. Although it's not on there at the moment, that's just a different variant. I'm mapped across using the same messages with the homepage and the location page, assuming that they would work for both. And when running through this, I realized that actually, and we probably see this from the data, that if someone lands on the location page having searched for Golfbreaks in England, they're naturally going to have a little bit more intent towards, or at least an affinity towards England. So showing them a generic message isn't probably going to be the best thing for them. Whereas Golfbreaks and the homepage, it means they might have just been searching for a golf break. And so they might need a little bit more hand holding. So those are the two different experiences that I'll chat through. And on the next slide, because everyone likes to see some performance metrics, this is just to highlight the importance of checking in on those secondary metrics and not just focusing entirely on conversion. Fortunately for me, on this instance, conversion rate has moved in the right direction, which is great. But for us, we'd noticed that we had quite a high bounce rate on the homepage and those location pages, which is where this test came from. So we want to make sure that customers don't bounce. And we want to make sure that they spend longer on the site if they don't bounce. Have they got a better quality journey? Moving customers through to high intent is important. And then for us, the search URL, I've included this because the platform allows you to add in these custom goals. So as a business, you'll know where your better converting channels are. You'll know certain aspects of your site and functionality that you want to track. For us, when someone lands on the homepage, we want to try and get them through the search funnel if we can. If we can, we know that the search performs and converts quite well. So seeing an increase in that, we might not have otherwise seen that if we hadn't had access to those secondary metrics. So it's at this point that probably the presentation will all fall apart, but I'm going to jump into the platform and just give you a little bit of insight into the differences between the two, what I've found, and show you just some of the data insights. So when you open the platform, I appreciate that not everyone on this call has seen the platform, but this is the kind of the campaign homepage. This is where all the active campaigns are. And this is where you would create your campaigns, edit your campaigns. And when you go into the creation of one of those campaigns, I'll talk a little bit here about the strategy. So I mentioned before, we're concentrating today on welcome visits. And at the moment, we've got 2 welcome visits that are live, the homepage and the location page. The benefit of being able to set up multiple experiences that basically trigger on different strategies means that you have your bases covered. So if you have strategies set up for welcome visits and it's positive and people progress through the site, then the browse abandonment might take over and pick up some of those users and try and will trigger additional experiences for them. So they all work together in unison. And that's kind of where I try and connect the dots so that we can surface experiences throughout the journey and different experiences. The goals down here, the guys at Moment Intent, originally it was conversion and revenue, and that progressed. So it progressed to the point where we can now, I talked about those secondary metrics, you can set up an experience based on, for example, purely for building intent, or if you wanted it to be specific to engagement, you want to get more add to carts, or maybe just PDP views. But I just wanted to share that with you so you could see kind of the background of the options available to you when you're setting up agentic campaigns. and then over to the platform. So there is a lot here, and it's going to be challenging to kind of go through the underlying data. But when you land on the page, what you're met with is your experienced users, the traffic split, your conversions. You've got the opportunity to change those particular optimization goals. So in this instance, this was the homepage welcome new visitor. You can see we've had some positive insights. So 14% uplift in time on site, which is great for us. But if I change the conversion rate, you can see down here, hopefully you can see down here, for the first 7 days, it was showing a negative trend. And with traditional A/B testing, I would have perhaps turned it off. I would have panicked when I saw negative 14%. And I would have said, this isn't working. And it's at the 7-day mark that the agent has learned. It's learned more. It's had time to learn. And it starts to find the optimization that it needs in order to surface those successful segments. We've also got the allocations. So there's a bit on how many different variants show and when. And down here is a section that I would often look at just to keep an eye on those secondary metrics. So it's really clear in the platform. Yes, you might measure on time on site, but there are still all these other secondary metrics that you might want to consider. I'd only highlighted a couple that were in the presentation, but these are really important. And
And
there's another. Go
Jack,
for
with
it.
the options that you provided in the allocations, what were they? And I guess what was the top performing one that resonated?
So we've got a how to book guide. So when someone lands on the site, we try and give them some insight into actually how do they book. If they're ready to plan, there's a message there. There's no action. It's kind of validating that you need to select your accommodation, your courses, transfers, and we will help you do that. Number one tour operator, to try and get some of that kind of validation across and instill the trust. And then a key message for us is customizable packages. And you'll see this in the insights actually. So customizable packages is just because it's on the site, every package on the site is customizable. And even if it's not there, it's an option to book. And it's a difficult message that we try and get across and drip feed throughout. So in the insights section, this kind of second tab, if I open these, trying to understand the underlying data here, what I can see is that the how to book guide, I'm just going to speed through this, but the how to book guide is primarily works where the percentage of users is quite high. So that's, for us, that's like your low intent users. Down here, you've got a percentage of users that are much less, and it's actually opting for the baseline. So it means that different segment, the kind of the end of the funnel, we'd probably want to consider changing or adding a new experience to cater for those particular users. So there's some underlying information here which will give us some insights. We can go through these and I've worked with Colin to identify how to scale this particular experience. But if I just very quickly go over to, so if I take this off, you can see the variance in how to book. There's a little bit on baseline, number one tour operator. Customizable packages, which I mentioned, is a really difficult message we try and get across. At the point at which a new user lands on the site, the agent doesn't really think it's very helpful to them. And that kind of makes sense because at that point, a new user is probably not interested in the fact packages are customizable. They don't need to know that. They've got a little bit more learning to do before then. So there is a much broader split on the homepage. If I go to the location page and skip straight over to the insights, so again, this is using very similar messaging. You can see here that primarily it's this number one tour operator message. It's the do nothing. So it's not leading with the how to book. The how to book in this instance is only really relevant primarily for paid. So if I go to number one tour operator, you can see now that has the higher percentage of users. So when trying to scale this particular test, I would maybe look at doing a location page new user for the higher percentage of users, and then do one later down the line, which is for that smaller segment of users. I'm not sure, Colin, if you had anything to add from what you've seen in here.
Yeah, just more to describe it as like a window into like why the agent's making the decisions it is. So, which is quite nice because you get a breakdown of every contextual point that the agent deems relevant to the campaign that you're providing. So, yeah, starting to take these into, I guess, the wider business as well, like especially around which messages resonate. You might start to feed into like your marketing channels as well and things like that. So, yeah, I think it's just a nice view to understand the personalizations that it's doing.
Nice. Anything else that you wanted to flag, Charlie, on
Nothing from it.
this?
I think. Oh, I had something from your overview around your. Well, I was going to ask, was there anything that really surprised you from these results?
I think it goes back to the point, not necessarily being surprised, but it's staring at you in the face when there's certain messages. I think we had a ready to plan message originally in this test, I think. And if you think about a new user kind of landing on the site and asking, "Are you ready to plan?" It's like it's probably a bit overbearing. But
Yeah.
at the time when you're setting up those tests, it's like, right, I'm going to use the same messages for the homepage, same message for the location page. They're surely going to work. They're both going to work. Whereas the messaging is specific to certain segments, and sometimes the agent will clearly segregate one of those um, variants that doesn't work for either, and then you can delete that. The agent will relearn what it needs to relearn, and if you need to add in more experiences, you can add that straight back into the agent, and it will then relearn based on what you've added.
And I think that's a really nice kind of summary as well there on kind of also why maybe the intent exists. We say to a lot of our customers, actually, you probably have a lot of these messages on your site already. Like you probably have those sorts of USPs, hidden throughout your site, those value messages. But actually, by using the agentic campaigns and something like this, you can actually understand, you can serve the right message at the right time without the clutter of the other ones and really focus on
Yeah,
whatever's working for that user. It's also
yeah,
nice to see the do nothing kind of come to life there as well and showing that, yeah, we find you're sometimes like, why is the do nothing doing so well? And it's because those customers might recover from abandonment on their own, or they're here with a purpose. They know exactly what you're doing. They want to do. So it's really cool to see in your results that you're seeing that.
Yeah, I think the amount of times we see customers who have a predefined view of what will work and it be completely different. So that point around being subjective, Jack, and I think your third slide, I think comes to life when you start to see the way the agent starts to make decisions.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I'm
amazing.
not sure
I'm
if there
aware
are
we're at
any. We are. I knew that it would speed by, but I'm not sure if there was any questions.
none at the moment in the chat. If anyone does have a question, please do send it over and we will get it answered and send it back to you. We'll also be sharing this recording as well so that you can rewatch it. But just thank you so much, Jack. That was super useful. And our first live demo from a customer. So very brave and thank you very much as well.
Very brave.
So
It didn't break,
very brave.
so that's testament to you guys that the
Well,
platform
we
was
never
able to
thought it was
handle
going to
it.
break. I should add. But
There
no,
are
thank you so.
there were
Sorry, you
just
go.
these. I was just going to say these 3 points, which is hopefully
Yes.
you've got this from the session, but you can find early wins. Don't worry that you're not a developer. You can get success, even if you don't want to go down the agentic route of creating the code yourself. They've got the visual editor. You can at least start there. Try and have a think about measuring more than conversion, particularly if it's top of the funnel, and then build the foundation. Work on setting up that tactic sheet at a more global level and the messages that will resonate with your customers. Hopefully that's come across.
Amazing. Yes.
Perfect. Nice summary.
Thank you so much, Jack. Thank you to everyone who joined. I know we are 2 minutes over, so we
No
will.
questions is excellent.
It was
Means you've
so
done a good job, Jack.
expensive. So if
Thank
anyone
you very
does have any
much.
questions, please do send them over and we'll get those answered. But thank you so much. We'll see you on our next Intent Live. I think the presenter is going to be announced.
Well, thanks, guys.
Cheers.